All right. Well, hello, everybody. Happy Sunday morning or afternoon if you're on the East Coast. I hope you're comfy and cozy, ready to nourish yourself. I really hope you get a lot out of this hour. I'm going to keep us to the hour. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Again, for those of you who are live, if you want to go off camera, you can. If you want to hop back and on, please feel free to use the chat. And let's go ahead and get started. So the plan for today, I'm going to do a little welcome, give a little background about what is Whole Life Nourishment. We'll have a little anonymous poll to check in. I always think these are super fun and it's a nice way to engage with each other. I'm going to lead you through the Whole Life Nourishment Wellness Wheel so that you can really take some time. Some of these are really obvious and some of these might be things that are unfamiliar to you. So I'm going to take about 30 seconds to a minute to explain each one. And I'll kind of talk through a couple different ways to use the wellness wheel as a self-assessment. We'll do a little post-self-assessment reflection and then share a couple of next steps and ways to stay connected. So that is our plan for today. So most of you know me, but in case you don't, so my name is Michelle Dwyer. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a holistic health coach and certified nutrition consultant. I have a master's of science degree in health and nutrition education. This was a second career for me, so that was pretty exciting to go back and get my MS degree. I'm also a professional member of the National Association of Nutrition Professionals and have been for 9 years now, actually more than 9 years, because while I was a student. I've been in practice for 9 years. Board certified in holistic nutrition. And for those of you who don't know, I was a teacher for 15 years. So that was my first career. And really, I see myself as an educator by heart. So now I'm just educating in a different way. And I also wanted to add, I identify as a change maker. So I was trying to figure out the best way to put this, but I care about our planet, I care about our world, and I'm here to be an agent of positive change. And that is a really important part of my work. So I want to give a little tiny background about Whole Life Nourishment. So this is a program that I created. I'm going to let somebody in. So if I pause, don't mind me. So Whole Life Nourishment is a program I created. So flashback to about 5 years ago. I don't know how many of you use the memories feature on your Facebook, but it's been really interesting to see what I was posting 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I went to Washington, D.C. as part of the Women's March, and I came home very committed to continue to do the important work that we need to do. And I've been seeing my posts from 5 years ago, and there's a franticness to them, right? Sign this petition and show up for this march and like call this senator. And I think those are all really, really, really good things. But even as I say it, I can feel that tension that we were all, well, maybe I don't want to speak for you, but that I was feeling at the time. And so about 3 years ago, I got really deep clarity. I felt really scattered in how I was showing up as a change maker. And so many causes that I care about. And so the clarity that I got is, hey, Michelle, like how you can serve, what your mission and purpose is to be support for other folks in their health and well-being so that they can show up and do the awesome work, right? So that's why I'm here, is I want to make sure you are nourished. And of course, we're not 100% nourished all the time in all areas, right? It's a shifting wheel. But the more filled up and nourished you are, then you can go out there and be amazing people. So that was the clarity that I got with Whole Life Nourishment. The other clarity that I got in working with clients one-on-one, and it's been 9 years now, is that yes, food and nutrition is really important, right? And yes, we might think about sleep and rest and exercise and movement, but unless we kind of take this whole life nourishment into perspective, we might be missing out on ways, or just the interconnectedness of ways, right? So for example, our schedule and routine around our food and nutrition can really make that feel easy and joyful, or it can make it feel stressful and overwhelming. So I started to see the interconnectedness. And if you look at this wheel, you can see that the top part is a little bit more how I would say, like body or physical focused, right? These are things that we maybe kind of are more in like the to-do realm. And then the bottom parts, the connection to self, the mindset, connection to others, and mission and purpose is more the emotional or mental or spiritual aspects of our whole life nourishment. And so it's really taking all 8 pieces of these together. And so that's why I created the program. The one other piece that I want to say about whole life nourishment is that I do believe that we are more powerful together when we come together as a group, whether that's out in the world, right? Whether that's online in our online communities, when we support each other, right? The rising tide raises all boats. So that's just a little bit there. So I'm going to start us off with a little poll because I think these are so much fun. So here's our first poll. Righty. So if you haven't done a poll before, you should see a little poll pop up. It's just one question. What positive shifts would you like to see in your life? And I think I set it up right, that you can choose as many as you want. So, and maybe I forgot something, or maybe there's something that you want to do that isn't there. It would only let me give you 10. So if there's something that I didn't do, pop it in the chat too. Awesome. Great. These are coming on in. So these are also obviously changing all the time, but just today, where you're at right now, where are you at? Great. Okay, we've got almost everybody. All right, we are set. So let's take a look. What are we feeling today? Can you guys see this? I can't see you, so hold on a second. Can thumbs up that you can see the results of the poll? Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so we've got less cravings. That's a 6 out of 7, which is interesting. I left it very vague because that could be food cravings. That could also be cell phone cravings, right? Cravings can come in lots of shapes and form. Burnout and overwhelm, yeah, these are great. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. So these are really, really good. And again, this is a no judgment zone, only compassion zone. So if you're like, all of these, that's okay, right? I want you to feel just that you're able to check in. Okay. All righty. I'm just taking these in too. So go ahead and close that out. So I'm going to lead you through whole life nourishment. If you happen to print out the freebie and you've got the wellness wheel, great. If you don't, paper is fine. So just make yourself a nice big circle and divide it into 8 pie pieces, right? So that is totally fine. If you're not it's not maybe a visual learner, but if you're more like a list person, do it as a list. This doesn't give you enough space. Do it how it works for you. So we're going to go through all 8 aspects, and I'm going to explain this. I want to give a little context here. So I'm going to go through the 8 areas so that you kind of get a sense of what we're talking about here. Everybody take a deep breath in. When you go through these, I really want you, if you need to touch your heart, if you need to touch your belly, if you need to just check in with yourself, do so compassionately and honestly. And it's just for you, right? Everything's going to be anonymous, so you don't have to share anything that you don't feel like sharing. But when we get to number 3, here's the thing I want you to pause and take a moment to check in with yourself. If you're feeling like you look at this circle and you're like, I'm not nourished in any way, I'm overwhelmed, I can't even brush my teeth, right? Then what I'm gonna encourage you to think about doing is actually writing down 1, 2, or 3 ways that you actually are nourishing yourself in this capacity, in this area. Because so often we can think about all the things we're not doing, and we're not actually acknowledging the things that we are doing. So if you know how to use the little features at the bottom, does everybody know how? I love these. Does everybody know how to do the reaction? So if you know how to do a reaction, let me see a thumbs up or a heart. If you're like, yes, that I can sometimes do that, right? Where I'm focusing on the things that I'm not doing instead of focusing on the things that I am doing. So yeah. So if you're in that state of mind, I encourage you to focus on the things that you are doing. Again, even if it's just one thing, that's a great thing to celebrate. If you're like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good, I'm feeling pretty stable today, I'm feeling pretty grounded, then you can also focus on things that you'd like to bring in or that you'd like to cultivate, or where you're like, okay, I want to up my game on this one. I want to level up on this one. So I'm going to leave it up to you to decide which way to do that, but check in with yourself. All right, really quickly, I'm going to just check the chat. Any questions before we get started? Pop it in the chat. Okay. Awesome. Let's keep on keeping on. So food and nutrition, this one's pretty straightforward. However, I have a couple questions for you to think about in this category. And this is where we start with whole life nourishment, because you have to eat multiple times a day. So other than breathing, right, which we have to do multiple times a minute, you have to make a choice around food and nutrition on a daily basis. So I like to start here, because if we are feeling more grounded in our food and nutrition, then it makes some of these other pieces a little bit easier. So a couple things to think about: what is working for you right now? Is there anything you want to adjust and add around food and nutrition? Or is there anything you want to release, even if it's just for a little while? So a couple questions to think about there. And so as we're going through these right now, you can focus on food and nutrition and then jot any thoughts down there. So things you are doing or things you want to be focusing on. And from a nourished place, right, when we're nourishing our food and nutrition, we're able to establish more clarity and confidence around our choices, personalized food choices. So if you work with me, you're going to know that like what works for one person does not work for another person. What works for us in one point of our life may not work for another point in our life. We are all individual human beings, right? And so we cannot compare to what others are doing. So your own personalized food choices and nutrition routines. And of course, the goal is to show up more energized, more balanced, and more nourished all day long. So that's when we're feeling nourished around food and nutrition. And I'm going to go pretty quickly through these, but I think you all will be okay. So sleep and rest. So this comes next in the physical space, because if we're tired, if we're not getting good quality sleep, it can start to throw off everything else. So take a moment to check in what's currently working with your current nighttime routine. What are your typical hours of sleep? Does that feel like enough for you? This is a question that people don't think about very often, so I wanted to add it here. How much time do you need at night to unwind? Especially if you have kids or pets or any like creatures in your world that you need to like take care of them. I find for a lot of people, then once everybody is kind of set, like they as an adult by themselves need some unwinding time. So think about that. And then any current sleep challenges. Now we talk about sleep and rest in whole life nourishment. Today we're just talking about sleep, but if you want to check in around rest, that's in a great place too. So again, when we're nourished in our sleep and rest, we have effective strategies to support better quality sleep and rest, because it's essential to having vital health, more energy, less cravings, and more resilience in handling the big changes you are facing. Okay, so movement and exercise. So everyone is pretty clear about what I'm talking about here. Although when we get into whole life nourishment, we kind of get to do a deep dive here. And I have some very particular philosophies around movement and exercise. So things to check in on: how often are you moving your body? Is it enjoyable and fun, at least some of the time? What kind of movement or exercise are you doing right now? So we're all at different levels in terms of what our body is able to do, right, for its optimal health and well-being. So again, releasing any compare. What are you doing that's working well for your body? Is it on your schedule, right? So again, we see the connection between all these different pieces. Do you have a workout buddy? Do you have someone that you show up for your accountability? And then I don't know about you all, but sitting way too often, right? I'm sitting right now. So how often are you sitting in a day versus just moving your body? Okay. And then again, when you're nourished in your movement and exercise, you're prioritizing daily motion, movement and exercise into your routine so that you can be more present in your body, right? Sometimes we can get sort of stuck in our head or other parts, like getting present in our body, relieve stress, support our immune health. This is really key, and feel stronger. Okay, let's do one more of the physical, and then we'll take a moment to breathe in. So schedule, habits, routines, and rituals. So I don't know about you, and again, I'll just speak for myself. These last 2 years have really done a number on my sense of like schedule and habits. And it's amazing to see. Again, I'll just speak to myself, but if you resonate, you can add something to the chat. You know, when we were all working from home, just time has gotten very weird and stretchy. And what feels like it should be easier to get into our schedule and routine can sometimes feel harder, right? And then we can think of the day like, I don't even know how to structure or organize my day. So, or, you know, if you are back to working in person, like how do you balance like those transition times? How do you make room for everything? How do you make room for the other people in your life or the other obligations or things that you need to show up for, and then also for yourself? So there's a lot we have to think about when it comes to a mindful schedule. And again, this is not everything, but these are some of the things that you might need to figure out, like, how do I make this a routine, or how do I make this a ritual? And we talk a lot in Whole Life Nourishment about elevating things to the level of rituals. So, but having a mindful schedule, you know, when are you eating your food? Oh, I think we lost them. Okay. When are you eating your food? When are you exercising or moving your body? What's your bedtime? What's your wake up time? What's your work time so that you can work effectively and productively? What about being off those electronics and devices? Like, do you put this to bed, right? So good questions here. And then of course, all the other things that we need to do, like our chores or maintenance of our homes, or taking care of other people, or connecting with ourselves. So take a deep breath, because I know this is a lot. There's a lot to do in a day. And we do get 24 hours, right? So how do we make those 24 hours really, really count? And so from a schedule, habits, routine, and ritual perspective, the idea is to create healthy patterns that allow you to move through your day with greater ease, energy, and focus, right? We want to make these things, a lot more of these things on autopilot, so that you're not needing to use that valuable brain power, I call it bandwidth, on things that can be made into a routine. Okay. And of course, at least from my perspective, these times have really highlighted the importance of routines more than ever. Okay, take a moment, take a pause. I want to see, let's go ahead and do a moment of the chat. So everyone pop into the chat if you feel comfortable sharing. One sort of, these are all the physical things. So let's start with wins. You know, I love sharing wins. So what's one area that you're like, one thing that you're doing in one of these 4 categories? What's one thing that you're doing? You're like, yes, this is a win. I'm feeling good about this. So pop it in the chat. What's one win you can share? Because we get to celebrate you. Okay, Robin's in there. Other Robin's in there. Great. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Beautiful. So I'm seeing consistent about my exercise, sleep and rest, Saturday morning exercise class that I love. I think that's what you're saying there, Jennifer. Movement class. Yeah, look at you with your exercise and your movement. I love that. Agasku. Yeah, I've done Agasku. It's pretty amazing. It's a holistic posture alignment. Super cool. And I love that you shared that, Jamie, because when we talk about exercise and movement, it's not always about like going out there for a 5-mile run, right? Like just being in alignment in our body is so important. Establish a solid morning routine. Awesome. These are beautiful, everybody. Thanks for sharing. Yay, wins. Do little spirit fingers for everybody. Okay, let's do the bottom part. Connection to self. So there's a lot of different ways. This is kind of a large umbrella category. And when we're in the Whole Life Nourishment group, we kind of we go back and forth. So we do food and nutrition, and then we do connection to self, and then we do sleep and rest, and then we do mindset. So we get a chance to kind of focus on the physical, and then we get a chance to focus on the more emotional or mental or spiritual aspects. So here's a couple different ways that you can be connecting to yourself. This can cover a lot of different categories. This can be creativity, this can be play, this can be your hobbies, this can be about financial abundance, this can be about beauty in your home, this can be about practicing radical self-love and self-care, this could be your therapy, right? There's so many different ways that we can connect to ourselves. This could be your meditation practice, this could be just your focus on bringing more joy into your life. So there's a lot of different ways that we can be connecting to ourselves. I just put a couple here to be thinking about, but especially those of you who are in a role, either in your personal life or your professional life, where you're giving a lot, it's really important to also take time for yourself. And I know we hear that all the time, right? But how do we actually make that happen? And I really do think it needs to happen on a daily basis, even if it's just in little micro amounts. So connection to self. So our practice is to cultivate ways to have meaningful self-care time in the form of self-love mindset, expressions of creativity, opportunities for pleasure and joy, even while things are totally wild and crazy like they are right now, right? Even in the midst of the unknown and deep challenges, how can we make these moments happen? Okay, we're doing good for our time. So mindset. So if you're new to mindset practice, this is a deep dive topic. And so I'm going to give you just a little taster if this is something that is new to you. I just saw this meme yesterday, and it was talking about, you talk to yourself more than you talk to any other human or animal, if you talk to your animals. So what are you saying to yourself, right? And so often the things that we might say to ourselves, we would never say to anybody that we love, right? Like it's part of our culture. It's part of our, media, all the different things, right? So what are the thoughts that you have about yourself throughout the day? What is that self-talk, right? What are the messages you tell yourself? How do you frame or reframe what happens in your day? And are you a person that likes to set intentions or mantras or affirmations or goals? Again, this is just a little tiny taster, but I want you to think about what's your current mindset? How is it? Again, we have a million thoughts in a day. It's okay if some of them are not the kindest, right? But as we get better and better and better, and we talk about like toxic positivity, this isn't about putting like a happy spin on everything. This is about being kind and compassionate to ourselves first, right? So again, when we focus on our thoughts and how they shape our experience of reality, we can create more mindfulness, more practices throughout the day to remain energized, grounded, spacious, and focused, right? Because that's, I think, how a lot of us want to make sure we're feeling. All right, 2 more. Connection to others. So notice that we talk about connection to self first. We talk about our mindset, and then we get to talk about our connection to others, because so many of us start here. We're like, this is how I need to show up for others. This is what I need to do for others. This is what I'm doing to connect with others. And that's great, right? That's wonderful. This is why we're humans, right? And why we love to be in community. But make sure you're doing these other things first. So lots of different ways to connect with others. And here's some connections you might think about or hadn't thought about. And there's probably some that I haven't thought about. So take a moment and you can pick a connection. You can take a look at some of these. This can be personal, professional, family, pets, even bigger concept like nature or the earth or your big communities. So the focus is on continuing to build meaningful relationships from a place of authenticity, giving from the overflow, and healthy boundaries. And these are all concepts that we get to do a deeper dive in with Whole Life Nourishment. And lastly, mission and purpose. So I know this is a big topic. I love the Simon Sinek, What's Your Why? I forget exactly what it's called. It's one of the things we've done for mission and purpose in our group before, but it's so great to think about your bigger why, right? And so for me, the clarity that I got, and this is many, many years ago, my why is to be an agent of positive change, right? So that's in the work that I do. That's what I do for myself, for my own sort of growth and development. It's what I love to support and guide others through. And so it becomes, I'm here for a lot of reasons, but that's one of my missions and purpose. So if you're like, I don't know what that is, Michelle, I have no idea. That's okay. That's okay. But I think it's nice sometimes to think about this, or sometimes we have this down really clearly. We're like, I know why I'm here. And how do we make sure we're supporting all the other aspects so that you can live your mission and purpose? So this is developing and nurturing your sense of why you're here now, because I know you came into this world at this time to make the largest positive impact. I just know that. That's why we're here. So let's do this together. And I love this last image here of this interconnectedness, right? That we are all interconnected. And all these aspects are interconnected, right? That this is, at least for me, a personal foundation of how I interpret the world. Is our greater interconnectedness. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to just kind of take a look. We're going to go through some questions, but I want you just to, I'm going to like not talk for a minute. Literally, I'm going to set the timer for a minute so I don't talk for a minute. I'm going to not talk for a minute so you can just kind of take a moment, look these over, see if you want to add any thoughts or notes, and then we'll take it from there. And if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. Okay, so again, a couple different ways that you can use this wellness wheel over and over again. That's one of the my intentions for you today, is that this can be something that if you want to do frequently, if you want to do it quarterly, if you want to do it with a friend, right, you can do this. So again, you can write down 2 or 3 ways that this category is currently being nourished. You can write down 2 or 3 ways to cultivate more opportunities to support this area. I also like kind of acknowledging, like, you know, putting a little heart in the areas that are currently feeling well nourished, and then put a little star or whatever little, you know, image that you want if there's something that you'd like to give a little bit more focus to. And some of you might have some other ideas. There's lots of different ways to use this. So we got another poll. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you. This is a little opportunity for some checking in and reflection. So got 3 questions here. I'll go ahead and launch that for everybody. And again, hopefully I set it up right where you can choose more than one for the first 2. And then on the last one, you just get to pick one. Alrighty, think great. Thanks, everybody. So let's see what we all had to say. Okay, so most nourished, 0 for food and nutrition. That's great. Not that it's great that it, but that's where we start. So there's a lot. We can only go up from there. Sleep and rest looks like the highest one. Good. Oh, I'm glad many of you are sleeping and resting. That makes me feel happy for you, the 4 of you who said that one. Yeah, so kind of spread out pretty evenly, although maybe no one could, maybe food and nutrition got cut off, but mission and purpose, some of you, right? So, okay, so most nourished, least nourished. So schedule habits, mission and purpose, those seem to be some big ones. Connection to others, yeah. Great. And if you had to pick one area, so food and nutrition, schedule habits, routines, yeah. And then spread out over mindset, connection to others, and mission and purpose. Very cool. Okay, so we are doing great for time, so we can dive in a little bit deeper. So at this point, I want you to pick one area, just one area. And I know you might be like, but I want to pick 2. Just pick one. We're just going to do one thing right now. It doesn't mean that other areas, and it could be the one that you just picked in the poll. And if you're like, actually today I want to focus on something else. So I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to do this. So if you printed out my freebie, it guides you through these questions and you can just do it right on the paper. If you didn't print out the freebie, no problem. You can just write these things out. So picking an area, positive benefits to yourself and others, and you can list as many as you want. The positive repercussions, if you were to nourish this area more, what are the positive effects that would happen? Then the next one is just to get really fun and creative about all the different ways you could possibly nourish this aspect more. Don't worry about it being realistic or doable. If your brain's like, can I afford that? Or I don't have time. Try to put all those little thoughts to the side for the moment and just get fun and creative and write down all the different ways that you might be able to nourish that more. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen now, but sometimes it's fun just to write these things down. Like maybe let's say it was sleep and rest and you're like, I'm gonna go on a 2-week retreat by myself, and your brain's like, how would you ever afford that? And you can't leave your family for that long, or you can't leave your business. Don't worry about it, just put it down, have fun. Okay, of these ideas, once you get that big brainstorm, pick 1, 2, or 3 that really kind of jumps off the page. What might make it jump off the page? It feels exciting, it feels easy, it feels enjoyable, it feels doable, or it feels like something, okay, I can take care of this right away. And then lastly, starting in this moment, what is one commitment you're ready to make to cultivate more nourishment in this area? So I'm going to go ahead. What I'm going to do for just a minute is I am going to pause the recording. Okay, so we had a little opportunity for reflection. If you want to share with me your goal, I'd love to, your action step, I'd love to hear it so you don't have to share it widely. But accountability and telling another human we're going to do it, tell your friend, text it to your partner, right? But just telling someone else like, okay, I'm going to focus on this. So yeah, pop it in the chat if you want to. And those of you catching the recording, feel free to share. So I want to be very mindful of our time. We have 8 more minutes. So let me just go back to sharing the screen for 1 more minute. So you have this as the freebie. If you're like, Michelle, what freebie are you talking about? It's the link in your confirmation that you got from Zoom. So if you missed it, and I'll send you it again so that you have it. But it is something, like Robin was saying, it's nice to do again and again and again. So this is Whole Life Nourishment. I hope you got like a nice little taste of the different pieces. I do want to share, and I know some of you this might be resonating, and some of you might already be joining, and some of you are like, why does she keep talking about Whole Life Nourishment? So I am opening up for new groups for Whole Life Nourishment. We're starting next Sunday. I did make them on Sundays. Right now, there might be another cohort on another day of the week, but I work with a lot of folks who are teachers or educators who work Monday through Friday, who don't have the flexibility to necessarily meet like Tuesday at noon. So the groups are on Sundays, and I wanted to share a little bit about it. But actually, before I do that, Jill and Grace have very kindly offered, I'm going to pop out, to share about their experience. And so I'm just going to give them each like a minute to share whatever they would like to share about having been in Whole Life Nourishment. So Grace, if you don't mind, I know you've got something right at 11, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Michelle. I was really pleased doing this exercise to see how many areas are just humming along, and I really credit the group for that. The one that really just feels like magic right now is my morning routine. And the fantastic thing about that is it encompasses so many other things. Like, it gets me exercise, it gets me time outside, connection with myself. There is meditation built into that. So it helps with mindset. There's like a healthy time to make a healthy breakfast. So that helps with like food and nutrition. So it just feels like a lot of synergy with that. And what I'll say about the group is I think it's just this special Michelle magic that you gather this group of such amazing people. And one of the great things about it is just learning from everybody in the group and getting inspired and coming away with so many great ideas and really feeling just feeling so beautifully held and received in that group. So that's a really special part of it, I think, that only happens in a group.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, I know my cup is always filled at the end of our times together. So thank you. And Jill, do you want to share? We remove pin.
Well said, Grace. It's just right on. I too, when we were doing the will exercise today, I was like, all right, it's pretty good, and that felt great, of course. And Grace talked about being inspired by the other ladies in the group. Every time we meet, I absolutely get inspired. In fact, today, Grace, you inspired me because I'm like, I got my sleep and rest is in line now, but you know what? Schedule and habits, morning routine. I should look at that. So that's fantastic. And again, like when like Grace said, like when you do one thing, it seems to support all the other pieces in some way. And so even when you just focus on one thing, you get multi-facets of benefit out of it. And the women in the groups, I've been in more than one group now, and the women are amazing. I mean, we're just everyday ladies, but everybody brings such neat perspectives and experiences and ideas. And every time I leave very inspired with leads on things I can try. And when you have, wins, or if you're having challenges, when you bring them to the group, I love how Grace said you feel held. It's like you're supported. It's hard to describe, but it has enhanced my life so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jill and Grace. Yeah, I had them share because I have a sales page. You guys can all take a look at it. I'm going to explain a little bit about the group. What does it look like? But the magic of it, it's like, well, it's so hard to put into words. But I would definitely say, the accountability, the support, the regular check-ins, right? Because it can just feel like so much can happen in a week. So how do we keep on keeping on despite all of these things? In this last group that we had, or in these last big things have happened to people, right? Like major big things. And so how do we keep on keeping on? How do we keep on keeping on? I was listening to the Keep Going song. I don't know if any of you ever caught that. It was about a year ago. I'm gonna post it on my Facebook again. I was just in tears last night. I was like, okay, we just gotta keep on going, right? But it's so much better when we do it together. So Jill, I'm gonna have you pause if you have one more comment, but you can put it in the chat. I'm going to just share a few details. If you're like, hey, this sounds interesting, tell me more. And if you're not, that's okay too, right? I believe in the perfect timing of the right connection of the right circles. So that's just kind of how I roll. So a few of the details. So we basically have a small group coaching calls, kind of similar to what we did today. It's about twice a month. I have all the dates if you want the dates. There are 9 90-minute calls that we run from February to May. So if you are planning any travel this summer, we will stop by late May, which is kind of nice. And the time together is really to build community, that support, that accountability, and then any kind of clear action steps, right, that you're wanting to take for the next 2 weeks. Really, it comes from this belief that when we're connected together, we can support each other and we can do better for ourselves. And I keep the group small, no bigger than 8 to 12 people, so we can really create some meaningful connection. So there is also, like, I try to give specific coaching when I can, specific feedback when it's requested. You also have the opportunity to work with me one-on-one at my client's maintenance rate. So if you're like, hey, Michelle, this is really great, and like, can we have a 30-minute meeting where we dial in on my health and nutrition? You can always add that on. So there's really lots of time for personalization. And also too, if we're in the midst of talking about sleep and rest, but like what's really coming up for you is schedule and routines, fine, that's great, right? Like it's not overly structured in that way. Big believer in manageable, achievable, small steps that we can take on a daily basis. And so you've got a chance to see these 8 different aspects. And then what I've done is pre-recorded 8 modules of each one of these different aspects of whole life nourishment that you watch on your own. I try to keep them all to about 20 minutes. The sleep and rest one got a little long because I had a lot to say, but I try to keep them at 20 minutes. There are YouTubes also, so that you can just like listen on your phone while you're on a walk. And you can also put me, I speak pretty fast, but you can also put me on fast recording. If you want to do like 2.5 speed, you're like, all right, Michelle, like I got this. Let me just kind of take these things in. But you also have access to them again and again. So if you're not like, I need a little refresher on my sleep and rest, or like, what's this mindset thing again? You get a chance to watch again and again, or listen again and again. Okay, I know we're right at 11, so I'm going to finish this up. So we also have a group classroom that we use. I've taken this off Facebook. We also are going to use WhatsApp. We experimented a little bit with this last group, and classroom chat didn't really happen, but WhatsApp is a really nice way to stay connected in between our group sessions together. You have an opportunity for accountability partners if you want to have that. Again, that's an optional thing. And then, of course, this is all online. Even before the pandemic, this was always intended to be an online program, because right now we have people from all parts of the country, really. So it's nice because we can all connect. So a couple of details, we're starting in 1 week. So if you are interested at all in this round, contact me, let me know. I have a complimentary clarity call, send me an email, follow up however you want to follow up. If you have questions, you're like, Michelle, I'm not sure, let me know the details. If you want to know the dates, I can give you the dates. So lots of ways to connect if this is something that you're even remotely interested in. Or if you're like, Michelle, this isn't really my thing, but I've got someone in mind who would probably love this, then I would graciously ask you to share. So that is it. Oh, I almost 11:02. Okay. Woo! I am going to stop share. And if you need to go, let me just check the chats real quick. Okay, I love this meal prep. Robin, I don't know if that's your goal or you're just like, that's the thing on my mind. My action step is to meditate weekly. Yes. Oh, I love that. It was unexpected. Yeah. What is the atheist version of prayer? Yeah, I love it. Daily gratitude. Oh gosh, Robin, you and I should talk. There's amazing research about practicing daily gratitude. It truly actually changes our brain, and it changes our neurotransmitters. So it's amazing. Jill said, I forgot to mention having a schedule time to focus is a game changer. Yes, Jill, thank you for mentioning that, right? There is something really special about giving yourself this gift of time. You just did it for today for an hour, and hopefully you're like, oh, my cup is full. Like, I'm going to go out there and do amazing things in the world. Like, even if that means just going home and taking a nap, it's okay, right? Taking a nap is an amazing thing. Grace, thank you for coming. Yes. Yes, Jennifer, thank you for coming. So please reach out. I wanted just to make sure I got to everybody's goals. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop recording. So if you're listening to the recording, check in with me.